At 5 a.m. on October 3, 1935, a massive military force marched across a dusty border into sovereign territory. They arrived completely without warning, deliberately bypassing any formal declaration of war. The target was Ethiopia. By 1935, nearly the entire African continent had been carved up by European powers. This map shows the geopolitical reality of the time. Ethiopia stood as the only independent nation in East Africa, entirely surrounded by Italian Eritrea and Somaliland. 200,000 Italian soldiers flooded across the borders, executing a highly coordinated two-front drive deep into Ethiopian land. In Rome, the Italian prime minister framed the invasion as a standard imperial pursuit. He publicly argued his nation was simply securing its rightful place alongside other colonial powers. But the sheer scale of this assault, launched without a word of warning, ignored the traditional diplomatic rules of colonial expansion. It suggested that Rome's focus on Ethiopia was driven by a pressure that went far beyond mere territorial gain. To find that pressure, we have to look back to the late 19th century. During the First Italo-Ethiopian War, the two armies met at the Battle of Adwa. The result was an absolute disaster for the invading forces, as the Ethiopian military decisively crushed the Italian army. That defeat left a deep, lingering scar on the Italian national psyche. For the newly established fascist administration decades later, the 1935 invasion offered a long-awaited opportunity to exact violent revenge. There was also a pressing domestic crisis. The Great Depression had severely damaged the Italian economy. Ethiopia offered an abundance of unexploited mineral wealth and the promise of new jobs, making it an incredibly attractive target for a desperate government looking to stabilize its workforce. The immediate spark they needed arrived in December 1934. A minor border skirmish resulted in 200 casualties. Although both sides were initially cleared of direct blame, Italy aggressively seized on the incident as the perfect excuse for a full-scale invasion. The combination of historical humiliation and severe economic pressure backed the Italian government into a corner. They absolutely could not afford a second defeat in Africa, setting the stage for total war. The Italian military quickly discovered that their mechanized advantages meant little against the local geography. The Ethiopian terrain is essentially a massive natural fortress of jagged peaks and deep ravines, which immediately stalled the modern invasion force. Under the command of Emilio de Bono, the Italians did secure a few early minor victories. The state propaganda machine seized on these moments, wildly exaggerating the number of surrendering Ethiopian troops to project an aura of absolute invincibility back home. De Bono even proclaimed an end to slavery in the conquered regions, framing it as a moral victory. In reality, this was a calculated logistical weapon. By freeing the population, the Italians relieved Ethiopian slave owners of the burden of feeding them, intentionally forcing those newly freed citizens to rely entirely on Italian rations. Despite the boastful headlines, the actual advance was almost absurdly leisurely. De Bono's troops were moving so slowly, they actually paused the invasion to build local roads. At one point, the commander even rode in on a white horse to casually loot the ancient obelisk of Axum. Back in Rome, the prime minister was furious. The slow pace was dangerously overextending supply lines without securing any decisive territory. Within a month, De Bono was abruptly stripped of his command and replaced. The bombastic propaganda broadcasts hit a highly flawed, lethargic campaign. The Italian army was overextended and complacent, leaving a massive opening for a counterattack. Recognizing that vulnerability, Emperor Haile Selassie mobilized his forces. Despite severe technological and weaponry disadvantages, the Ethiopian ranks swelled to roughly 190,000 men. They launched what became known as the Christmas Offensive. Looking at the tactical map, the Ethiopians designed a sophisticated, multi-pronged attack. They split their forces into left, center, and right groupings, driving a hard wedge directly between the isolated Italian 1st and 3rd Corps. The execution was incredibly swift. Under the cover of darkness, Ethiopian forces silently waded across fast-flowing rivers, slamming into the Italian lines and pushing the bewildered invaders back. As they continuously beat back the modern army, Ethiopian morale skyrocketed. Conversely, the supposedly superior Italian defense began to collapse under the pressure. Reports from the front lines captured a growing panic within the Italian ranks. Their modernized divisions realized they were being methodically outmaneuvered by an opponent they had spent months dismissing. The tactical brilliance of the Ethiopian defense brought the ghosts of Adwa roaring back to life. Outgunned and outmatched on paper, Ethiopia had pushed the Italian military right back to the brink of a massive defeat. To salvage the failing campaign, Rome installed a ruthless new commander, Pietro Badoglio. Realizing conventional tactics were failing, Badoglio received explicit authorization to bypass international law entirely. On December 26th, the conflict reached its horrific turning point. Italian bombers took to the skies and began dropping massive canisters of mustard gas directly onto the Ethiopian lines. The sudden introduction of chemical weapons, combined with concentrated fire from modernized artillery and machine guns, shattered the Ethiopian counteroffensive. Unable to fight back against poison gas from the air, the remaining territories fell rapidly. The Italian king, Victor Emmanuel III, was officially crowned Emperor of Ethiopia, completing the annexation. Despite the grand victory parades in Rome, the conquest was never truly settled. Localized guerrilla resistance against the occupying forces continued relentlessly, right up until the outbreak of the Second World War. Italy's annexation of Ethiopia was a victory won through a series of desperate atrocities, rather than tactical brilliance. This campaign of revenge ultimately served as a grim rehearsal for the technological horrors of the coming global war.